Welcome to the Halawa Fantasy Football League. This is week 11 recap, so I guess this is episode 12. Interesting week, and just most of all shows like this is a week of parity, like a lot of upsets, and then the standings kind of gets compressed. We'll look at those a little bit later, but the biggest thing this week was a record-breaking week by Morgan. He had a huge game. We'll look at his scores, but mostly thanks to Jonathan Taylor. So just take a look at his run. It's incredible. No one could stop him. There was no stop. That's Isaiah Stewart. Yeah, so anyways, with Jonathan Taylor, he had so many yards, and he had not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 touchdowns on his way to it's crazy. We'll see his score later. But anyways, what we're talking about as far as the standings goes, if you look at our standings, just as a quick overview, you'll notice the bottom 3 all won, so they move up. There's a little bit of movement in the middle that goes up or down, and then the top 2 lost. And so you can see the standings get compressed, and then it's just showing that it's going to be a super competitive run to get those last 2 playoff spots. So right now it's Jeremy and Mike B who has 5 and 6, but they may be taken over easily by any one of these, and even down here they have a chance too, just because there's enough games left for them to get 500 and maybe just slightly over. So it's going to be an exciting. This may have been just the most competitive season that we've ever had. So it's really been good. So anyways, let's get to our weekly recap. I'm going to start from the bottom. We had Aaron versus Eric. This is one of the first upsets. In this case, mostly because of what happened with Eric's team. Not a lot of good performances, just because of a lot of the injuries too. Like you see, Aaron Jones is out, Kyler Murray is out, Fant was on a bye, Kareem Hunt is still on IR, so it's mostly injuries on his part. And then if you look at the scores, just not good. Without Kyler Murray, Eric decided to go with Derek Carr. He had 12.5 points. Tyreek Hill actually did pretty good in spite of Kansas City's poor performance. You're going to notice that a lot of the people who rely on Kansas City guys didn't do so good this week. Same with Baltimore. There's some other teams. They just didn't do good. And then Singletary didn't do good. Buffalo actually got upset. Montgomery had 8.6. He played the wrong bear because Eric left a lot of points on the bench with Mooney, who had 20.60, but still, even then, actually it might have been close enough to catch Aaron. As far as what Aaron got, Joe Mixon had a huge game with a 23.7. Russell Wilson also not such a good game. Mike Evans did pretty decent tonight, and that was able to help him secure the win. And then as far as the defenses goes, Eric got good performances from Baltimore, and Tennessee was kind of pedestrian at 12. A big score by Justin Tucker, so that's what also is kind of helpful. His flex not too good, 2.8. Left some points on the board on the bench with Pollard getting 10.26. Because if you see Saquon Barkley, that's going to be rough. That was a game tonight. As long as the Giants are not going to have a good O-line, he is not an elite running back this year, unfortunately. But I don't know. Hopefully, you would hope he could at least get a touchdown. They were on the goal line. That touchdown ended up going to this off the bench offensive lineman who checked in as a tight end, so that kind of hurt. But he got the win, so that's the most important thing. And it looks like Aaron's team no longer has any more injured players. So you can change your name to IR, designated for return. How's about that? Okay, so next up. This is the one that we are featuring today. Morgan, who was one of the bottom feeders, who has been at the very bottom, happens to score the highest point total of the season of anybody, 208.42. I don't think anybody else has broken the double century mark. How did he do it? He did it on the back of Jonathan Taylor, who had 5 touchdowns, 4 of them rushing, 1 as a catch, 185 rush yards, and he had 3 receptions for 19 yards. So an incredible fantasy day. This is going to be one for the record books. He also had big scores from Austin Eckler, who's another guy who's potential to really blow up. So nearly 40 points in our league. The New England defense gave him 40 points. So on the backs of those 3, there was nothing. No one, any portion of the week, of the entire season, is beating Morgan. So we'll see. He's setting the mark at 208.42. We'll see if anybody can beat that, but highly unlikely, because that's an incredible game. To get 5 touchdowns in one game is incredible. Jeremy didn't have a too bad game considering some of the scores that we had. Like, he would have beaten a few others, but Dak Prescott had a bad game against KC. That game by itself was just a fantasy black hole. If you had KC players or Dallas players, it was a black hole. Justin Jefferson was huge, 33.3. So usually that would be enough to help get a win somehow. That was huge too, because they upset the Green Bay Packers. Mecole Hardman, again, like I said with Kansas City, if you had Kansas City or Dallas, it was kind of stinky for you. Dylan has been a pretty good, solid handcuff while Adam Jones is out. Robinson did good for him. And then tight ends this year, I don't know. There's something we got to do about the tight ends. I don't know. They get the same stats as wide receivers, so it's kind of tough to do. Carlson did pretty good, 9.3. Actually, Joseph did better. And Cleveland did it pretty good, but 40 points for a defense is kind of incredible. What's funny is Jeremy could have got more points from Joe Burrow, but that's definitely not touching Morgan. So that was the game of the week. Probably the performance of the season by Morgan. So that's going to help him going forward in competing for that last playoff spot. Okay, next up is Richie versus Brad. In the case of Richie, he still continues to have trouble choosing his starters. That's kind of the issue when you have a lot of good players, so you don't know who's going to do better. So, I mean, that's not a nice problem to have, but in his case, Gibson had 10.40. That could have probably helped over Anderson. And then what did he get for his flex? Actually, the flex is pretty solid. But that's about it. Oh, I'm sorry. Gibson is a running back. No, okay. You played it right. I'm sorry, Richie. You played it right this week. It's just, unfortunately for you, you had to face Brad, who I feel like is the hottest team right now. Like, if you look at the scores, Richie, you had the 4th highest score. So you would have beaten everybody except for Gary and Morgan. And, of course, who you went up against, Brad. So, I mean, good job. It's just a matchup thing in this case. Jalen Hurts and Philly had a huge game, like 40 points. Jalen Hurts had 3 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. So that hurts all the other backs and wide receivers and tight ends. He vultured all those points, touchdown points. Devontae Adams had 27 points in a loss. Deebo Samuel, strong, another strong game, 16.7. Harris, 15.6. Look at this. His wide receiver, 19.6 from Deontay Johnson. Ryan Suckup, 14. San Francisco, 18. Only the tight ends, like every other tight end, has been bad. And then Wilson has been pedestrian. He could have probably had Russell Gage, but yeah, I just feel like Brad probably has the hottest team right now. So he's going to be a dangerous one going into the playoffs. Okay, next up. Mike Binning versus Gary. This one was a tough one for Mike because we got the news that Lamar Jackson was out, and he's like a big guy that he relies on. And look, all these guys. Another problem with injuries, like Jackson was out, Mitchell was out, Brown was out, all putting up donuts. Zach Moss only got him 0.8, even though he was expected to get at least 10 points. Christian Kirk only 3.5, Foreman only 5.2. I mean, that's a fill-in for these guys who aren't available. So injuries have played a part in hurting Mike. I mean, he had pretty good points considering the low scores here. 92.18 is actually pretty good considering how bad this looks. Kicker 17.2, so that's the only thing. But Gary's another one who had a really strong game. Aaron Rodgers in a loss had 36 points. McLaurin had 18.8. Jamar Chase kind of underperformed slightly. Justin Jacobs 9.5, Stevenson 9.5. Nick Chubb was huge again, 23.6. Bullock only got him an extra point. And Tampa Bay D tonight kind of like just put it to bed, scoring 23 points. He could have played Mike Williams, 18.2 points in the wide receiver spot and got a little bit more. Or even the flex. Actually, no, the flex. You play Nick Chubb in your flex. Maybe you put one of these running. You put Nick Chubb in a running back spot, and then you put Mike Williams in the flex, and you would get a little bit more. But you won anyway. And going away, you only would have lost to Morgan and Brad. So Gary's another one who is a pretty strong team, and they're pretty healthy. And this was good too, because he kind of scored by picking up Aaron Rodgers, who was out for being a vaccine denier. Okay, next up, James versus Darren. This is another one of those upsets where those bottom teams kind of moved up. In this case, I think James needed a lot more from Tom Brady and Godwin, but they did pretty good and they had a good night. But what hurt him was like Michael Pittman, who only had 3.3. All the points, like I said, got sucked into the Jonathan Taylor black hole. So any other fantasy points, they all went to Taylor. Myles Gaskin did good. Ezekiel Elliott, did he get hurt in the game or something? He only got 10.7. Ezekiel was limited in practice. Maybe he got hurt. Yeah, that's something to watch on. And James continues to not play a tight end. Renfro only had 6.5. And the Buffalo D, which you were not expecting because Buffalo is an elite defense, only got 2 points because they got destroyed by Indy and Jonathan Taylor. So he got burned by Jonathan Taylor in more than one way. Let's see the bench. He has some good bench. Landry 12.3. That's a strong player. And Darren had a big game from Cam Newton. He's another one. He was able to rally from losing Aaron Rodgers. Cam Newton got him 29.26, and so if he's going to be the starting quarterback going forward, that's good because Cam Newton too is also a rushing threat. He got a rushing touchdown. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back and healthy, getting him 15.8. That's his second highest score of the week. The problems are probably with Khalif Raymond, who only had 0.68. They mostly relied on the running game in that case, and plus they didn't have Jared Goff, and they had their second string. I mean, it's not that much of a drop off because Goff isn't that great. It's not that good, but it was enough to get a win. So a matter of matchups helped Darren to like stay in the playoff race. And then the final game, another upset. Actually, did I miss one? No, I didn't. Okay. It was Mia Milo versus Cooked on Thielen. Don versus Mike L. This was another game that was similar in terms of me not being full strength and getting some injuries, which kind of hurt. And then Mike having a strong enough game. So Josh Allen, even though they didn't do so good, at least got him 20 points. Thielen had 18.2 as Minnesota was able to defeat Green Bay. T. Higgins not so good, to only 2.5. Williams, like I said again with the KC guys, it was a black hole game. Dalvin Cook, in defeating Green Bay, had 23.20, and a huge game from his kicker, 19.2. And then a defense that outperformed Indy, which is kind of weird because Indy had this huge 41-15 blowout, but they only gave Don 11 points. New Orleans was able to edge them out. As far as what you could do on the bench, Mike could have got more points technically by playing one of these receivers. Actually, both of them. You could have took out this flex and you could have took out your number 2 receiver and got just a few more points, but you played it pretty decently. That's not a huge drop off. I could have got a little bit more points by playing Rondell Moore instead of who's my flex? Well, Rashad Bateman or Michael Carter, who was in the flex. Like in my case too, I didn't have. It was a bye for the Rams, so no Henderson, no Cup, and also CeeDee Lamb got hurt early in the game, and also Michael Carter got hurt, so it was just not my day. Anyways, there's the weekly recap. So yeah, so it's gonna be exciting stretch going forward in the future. So let's look at let's look at the standings again. League overview. So again, like we said, me and Eric both lost, so we go down to 8-3, and Brad wins, so he goes up 8-3. James loses, so he goes down to 6-5. Jeremy, did Jeremy win? I can't remember. Yeah, no, Jeremy got destroyed by Morgan, so he goes down to 5-6. Mike B also goes down to 5-6. Mike L goes up to 5-6. Gary goes up to 5-6. So now we have like a whole swath of 5-6 teams here. We have more 8-3 teams, and then all these guys down here go up to 4-7 and join Richie, who's at 4-7. So it's gonna be super competitive. And so we have how many more weeks? It's week 11, so there's 12, 13, 14, 15. So 4 more weeks to try to get that last playoff spot. And I think week 16 and 17 are our playoffs. So there you go. We're not going to do any waiver wire reports. And we will, let me see if I have any notes. Yeah, that's all I really had to say. If you want to look at the waiver wire, feel free to look at it. I think our trade deadline has passed. So this is a year that we didn't have any trades. And here's an interesting topic. You guys see this? I'm not gonna look at it here. I'll probably look at it anywhere. But do you guys want to have like some kind of trophy, or like something like a ring, something for the winners? And I'll even retroactively like make them too. So you want something like small, so maybe the guys who have multiple championships that don't get too cluttered, or you want something big to show off and for your bragging rights. So like just looking at this thing, they have like rings, they have gigantic trophies, a football, a championship belt. What is this? So if you're interested, or take a vote on what you want. If you're a champion in the Halawa Fantasy Football League, you probably deserve to get something. So that's just something to think about going forward. But anyways, congrats to Morgan, who had the huge game this week. And that's that. All right, see ya. Bye.